All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Daily Update, my 1000 Days Challenge. This is day 262, so let's get things started. All right, so first and foremost, you'll notice the balance remains similar as of yesterday. There's been some drop, and that's actually due to Link. As what I mentioned yesterday, there was a very sharp pullback, and even though my Link was comfortably in terms of taking profit-wise, the pullback was so huge that I actually triggered my absolute stop loss. So yeah, so I took loss based on that. But otherwise, no major change in terms of setup. That was definitely not expected. But as and when things such as that does happen, which is why it's actually important to do have an absolute stop loss as well, as you never know if there's a sustained move, in which case you do want to limit your losses in that perspective. It may not be that important when it comes to going for long trade because you sort of have a cap in terms of your losses based on your amount of margin that you put in, or even your total capital that you put in if you are not using margin trade. On the other hand, if you're looking for short, definitely hard stop loss is a definite must because there's no telling of how high the price can go. For example, recently you can see Dogecoin going way parabolic and still sustaining in terms of trend. So trend and momentum is something that may be really strong. I'll be looking to see if there's any trading opportunity for Dogecoin as well. So yeah, but definitely not in terms of investing right now because it seems to be a little bit overpriced or overvalued in my opinion. But of course, can it go higher? I very much answer is yes. But when it comes to investment, I definitely do not encourage fear of missing out in terms of FOMOing wise. All right, otherwise, in terms of the market structure view itself, you can see that on the weekly chart itself, no major change in terms of Bitcoin. We still remain technically bullish. But if you do look in terms of the weekly chart, in terms of candlestick pattern wise, you see a very nice indecision candle. So the wicks on the top and the wick on the bottom is relatively the same size, and then the body is relatively thin. In addition to that, there was also somewhat like a volume increase. So it goes to show that there is some sort of interest both in terms of selling pressure, potential selling and buying pressure. But if you actually break it down, you will see that selling pressure mainly comes from over here. That there was a lot of selling pressure towards the downside, but similarly, it was actually bought out very quickly as well. And if you do look in terms of how fast it was being bought at, it was actually mostly bought in this 1 hour chart itself. That's where the bulk of the volume is coming from. But even after selling pressure is actually the selling wave is over, you can see that the buying momentum is actually tentatively a lot higher than previously during this smaller decrease in sell. So yeah, there's something to bear in mind. So basically, I do try to zoom in from time to time to have a closer understanding of what is happening in terms of the macro situation itself or the micro situation itself. All right, but otherwise, looking on the weekly chart like I mentioned, tentatively, we do look a little bit of indecision and potentially we could be consolidating over here in this top part of the region, which in my opinion is actually a good sign. Instead of having a very strong parabolic move towards the downside to retest this 20 exponential moving average on the weekly chart, if we actually do consolidate here and give it some time, say potentially even until the end of May itself, so having a month or two to actually consolidate while giving time for the price to catch up, it will actually be a great sign that more people are actually willing to buy at a high price of above 50K Bitcoin. In which case, if it does break above, it will be a much more sustainable kind of a price action or supply and demand kind of perspective. On the other hand, if you're just going straight up parabolic, what happens is that it was actually caused by much less reduced volume or interest in that sense. So in which case, there will be much more tendency for people wanting to take profit, and there will also be much less sellers in between to support the prices if it does retraces itself. All right. So having said that, in terms of price action wise on the 4-hour chart, I'm not looking at any potential setup. And the reason is very simple. On the 4-hour chart, price is below this 200 simple moving average. So I'm leaning a little bit bearish in terms of short-term momentums on the 4-hour chart. However, if you look in terms of the daily chart, which is where I take reference from at times, the major trend still remains supportive in terms of bullish itself. So shorting over here may not be the best move simply because it could be at a very nearly support we was previously supported. It could very much bounce above. Even though it did close technically below this 50 simple moving average, but you generally want it to be really clearly below it, and then also with volume, especially when there's a near support, horizontal support near here as well. So I do not want to short over here simply because there is a potential bounce over here on the daily chart itself. So on a greater timescale basis, this will not be a great shorting opportunity in my personal opinion. Not to say that it cannot go down, but generally that is against the trend, that is against my kind of trading action for price action wise. So yeah, now I'm staying out of the market and looking for potentially other coins or tokens to actually trade. And hopefully Bitcoin could remain a little bit more stable, even if it remains within this region. Then potentially we could have further opportunities or upside or downside for other tokens itself. So yep, if it does maintain above 59 or 60K to this 50K region, so 50 to 60K will be a great region for it to consolidate. And if it does form a very nice pattern, then I will consider to actually go for long or a potential short setup. Otherwise, that's more or less about it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.